Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. It's a Cubs off day, but we're here to talk a little Cubs baseball. Talk about Kris Bryant being in town this past weekend. There's some prospect news that's worth mentioning today as well. But before we get into any of the pleasantries, I am Ron Luce, joined tonight by Cody Delmendo and Joe Mayers. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this beautiful Monday in the Chicagoland area, despite the events of the weekend? Let's just say that.
Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah, all things considered, not bad. The Cubs' winning ways can only last for so long, especially when San Francisco comes into town. But they battled a little bit.
Yeah, they made it interesting, at least on Sunday. Cody, how you doing, buddy?
I'd probably be I don't know, maybe not as well because the Cubs are playing so well. They win that series against the Reds. And then get swept. I know the Giants are one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best record-wise, whatever. But I was hoping for at least one win over the weekend. The only reason that I'm pretty much not bothered by it is because football is back, and I didn't even pay attention to yesterday's game. Admittedly, I didn't pay attention to yesterday's game. I mean, what is Week 1 NFL season? The Cubs are bad. This month doesn't matter in the grand scheme of anything. So, yeah. I let the Bears piss me off yesterday instead of the Cubs.
Yeah, so. Likewise. I feel that, man. I'm right in the same boat with you. And funny enough, Cody and I were literally right next to each other. We did not buy tickets together, but ironically, our seats were literally right next to each other. And people might be like, oh, like right next to each other, like you were 2 rows away. No, literally, like
no.
Row 9, I was seat 14, he was seat 13. So, like, got to take in Saturday's Cubs game. Obviously, that game was by far the most heartbreaking of the 3. But KB back in town. Obviously, Friday, he got the huge, tribute video, and he's crying. And I mean, overall, he didn't really have a massive series. It's not like, he beat up the Cubs with like 4 home runs over the weekend or something. So I guess that made it a little bit easier. But either way, like you said, Cody, I think we all let the Bears just piss us off rather than the Cubs. But besides Kris Bryant being in town, because obviously that's a headline, I know you guys have some thoughts, and I would love to hear from you guys. Also worth noting, just a news thing, I'm sure we're going to talk a little more in depth about it, but Brennen Davis will be up at AAA Iowa now because their season being extended an extra 2 weeks this year. That was something I believe that was implemented back in late July between the minor league baseball and Major League Baseball. So he's going to go, and I think they have like 16 games left in their season, so he'll play the last 16 games there. They start a series, I believe, with Omaha tomorrow, just like the Cubs do with the Phillies. So good things happening. I mean, he's coming up, and I mean, if he looks good these first 16 games, we probably see him right out the gate, and maybe we see him before the All-Star break next year. So, but I'll turn it back over to you guys. I want to hear from you guys. Obviously, KB this weekend. I think from the Cubs side of things, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, sadly. But still fun to talk about KB being back in town. And then, I mean, the excitement of Brennen Davis moving up another level is pretty cool to see. So, gentlemen, I will turn it over to you. The floor is yours. Would love to hear what you guys think.
Go ahead, Joe.
So, as far as Brennen Davis, I don't think anybody's really surprised to see him go to AAA for the remainder of the season. It makes sense in the fact that AA is ending, AAA goes a little bit longer.
Yep.
Why not? I mean, if he has a bad 16 games, it's not going to ruin him. He's not going to end his 2021 season feeling like crap. Nobody's going to feel that way. So there's only upside here. I don't know if, like I saw on Twitter, this doesn't really affect his ETA to the big leagues, probably. This those kind of timing things that just works out, and it's awesome. I mean, that was just a great thing. I know it came out late last night, but I didn't see it till this morning. It's just it's just awesome to see this morning.
Yeah, I think that made people very warm and fuzzy given last night's Bears game. At least Cubs fans, it gave us something to be excited about. Cody, what were your thoughts on just everything of this weekend?
Yeah, well, I'll start with KB, man, because Joe didn't really have much to say. And everyone knows, if you listen to this podcast, everyone knows that I'm probably and I don't mean I guess I don't mean to hog it all, but I feel like I'm the biggest KB guy on the show. I've been, yelling at everyone that's ever not appreciated him, disrespected him, all that stuff for his entire tenure with the Cubs. So yeah, Friday kind of sucked in terms of just watching how it all went down. The way that the Cubs did it was nice, I guess. It was the irony in the fact that Tom Ricketts and Crane Kinney are presenting him this flag, and the number was wild. I was curious to why Jed Hoyer wasn't part of that, but that also is kind of interesting in terms of, all the stuff we heard that they've said in the media. Chris Bryant hasn't said anything bad about the Cubs, but obviously we remember Jed Hoyer's comments about everything on ESPN 1000 like a week after the trade deadline. So yeah, I was a little interested into why Jed Hoyer wasn't there. If anyone knows why, if someone asked him and he answered and I just didn't see it, let me know. I'd love to know. But the video was awesome. The crowd was awesome. Friday and obviously on Saturday, me and you were there, Ron. Everyone, gave him a standing O, deservingly so. Yeah, man. It was just weird. Even when we were there Saturday, I said it to you. It was just weird seeing him in another uniform. Yeah. I thought it was great that I'm assuming his wife, Jess Bryant, made those cookies and gave them to the entire Cubs staff, and that pretty much just sums up, Chris Bryant and his family. Like, it goes back to my point about how could you ever say anything bad about this guy? How could anyone ever think that he didn't want to be here? How did anyone ever think that he cared more about the money than playing with the Cubs? We really don't know in a sense, but he also said that no one offered him a contract extension except the one time they did. It was after the 16 season. So all these rumors that happen after this, after 17, I guess, whether they're true or not, we'll never know. But I mean, according to Chris Bryant, they never came. So it's like a lot of that stuff just kind of resonates with me, just bothers me, honestly, especially if they don't find a way to just bring him back. Because, obviously I think he's the one that they should bring back more than the three, but he's also the one I think is least likely to come back, just based off the value that he has, and other teams are going to be bidding for him. At least the smart teams should be. And, at the end of the day, he probably will take whoever gives him the most money. As much as I think that he really doesn't care, I do think he has to be over this entire contract situation that he's been going through the last 3-4 years. Probably just wants to get, honestly, I feel like he probably wants the longest deal that someone's going to offer him. Someone offers him 7-8 years, that he'll probably take it just so he doesn't have to deal with these kinds of talks for a foreseeable future. But that's, off-season talk, obviously. But, like I said, what the Cubs did in terms of the gesture and everything was great. And it was just kind of, it was the first of the three. When Javi and Riz come back next year, if they're not on the Cubs, we'll have the same stuff. We'll have the same feels. When he's crying, when he's walking up to first base and while he's watching the video, I mean, again, it just kind of sums it up as him as a Cub. And, if he doesn't come back, I just hope the Cubs learn from this mistake of not getting an extension done. And I feel like that would be the best way to learn from your mistake is if Brennan Davis looks like a guy you're going to build around for the next 6-7 years, then you better keep him around. You better extend him early. Take a page out of the White Sox book. We can sit here and talk all about how, the Cubs, they won. The White Sox, they still have a lot to prove with their core, but they're on the right track. And then, no one's talking about contracts with them. I know they're all young still, but no one's going to be talking about contracts with those guys for a long time. And so I feel like, with Brennan Davis, if he, whatever happens these 16 games, I genuinely don't think it matters. I think he starts in AAA next year unless he has a gigantic spring training like Chris Bryant had in 2015. And then obviously the service time thing, I'm not going to get into it, but you get what I'm saying. If he has a great spring training, he could be up sooner than what many think. But I'm going to assume Brennan Davis sometime between May 1st and the deadline next year is when he'll be a Cub. And if the Cubs make some decent free agency moves and Brennan Davis comes up and shows out, there's no reason this team can't be competitive. A lot of things got to happen, but that all those things said, it is what it is with Chris, and it's great to see Brennan Davis. I was honestly, if there's anything to nitpick about the Brennan Davis thing, to me is I thought he should have been called up to AAA a little bit earlier. Honestly, I mean, he'd been mashing in AA for a while. And I honestly would have loved to see him get at least a full month in AAA just to see, the 16 games or whatever it is. I mean, he struggled in AA even whenever he first came to AA, and then he adjusted and figured it out, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my thing. I suspect he'll probably, I don't want to say cold right away, but he might not be, what we've seen in AA right away. That's for sure. But I do expect him to adjust. He's too good of a player at this point in his minor league career for me to think that he wouldn't. So, yeah, that's like my one nitpick with that. But yeah, man, I like I said, I just hope the Cubs go with these next group of guys that come up and are a big part of the Cubs' next great team. I hope they learn from their mistakes and figure out a way to do it, because the fan base is never going to forget this stuff. We're never going to forget it. And I don't blame people. I don't blame people for being pessimistic about that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I just, I hope Tom and Jed saw what happened over the weekend with Chris and how he felt about a lot of things, and take that into consideration for him to come back in the winter.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Chris stuff was awesome, echoing what you said there, Cody. I think it was cool. It was weird seeing him in another uniform. That was something that you and I discussed on Saturday. But I think that was just the way that, and obviously I'm sure for him, he's happy because the Giants just, mollywopped the Cubs in 3 games and took care of business. And for them, that's good. They keep their MLB best right now. They're 93 wins, which is the best record in all of baseball. They certainly look like a team that's going to be reckoned with in October. And, maybe Chris can get another ring. And I think that's something he's got to be excited about right now. And then I agree with you, though, about the long-term thing. Like, to me, Chris Bryant just seems like the player of, like, just give me the freaking security and I'm good. Like, that's all I want. I don't need, like, this crazy, like, I can opt out after 3 years and get more money. Like, just give me something that's going to keep me in one place for a long time that pays me good money, and I can stay here and be happy and not have to worry about the contract. Because I really do. I think that all that contract stuff really messed with all of these guys. And it was just such a distraction that, now you see this team playing fun and free. And even if they're losing, like, they're still having a good time. And it's like, that wasn't happening before because of all that negative energy that was surrounding the clubhouse. I also think, too, something that, I didn't even mention in kind of the opening monologue, but the opening or the September 11th stuff that both sides of town did. I actually got to say I was on both sides of town on Saturday for the day and night game. That was kind of cool. I went with my buddy who's a big Sox fan, so we did that. It was a bucket list thing for us. But Cody, I mean, you can echo it. I think it was awesome that the Cubs brought out a member of each of the service branches, as well as Chicago Fire and PD. They got nicely recognized before the game, a nice standing ovation. Both teams came out to the first and third base line. I think that was cool too. And then the young lady that sang the national anthem, she crushed it. She actually did the White Sox national anthem then too, which was kind of cool. Yeah, my buddy and I.
She was great.
She was awesome, and it was cool kind of seeing her do her little Chicago tour for the day because she's a Chicago police officer. For those that maybe didn't catch it, so I thought that was cool as well. And yeah, man, I think the Brennan Davis stuff is going to be fun. It almost makes me want to look into how much minor league MLB TV cost for the next 2 weeks. Maybe it's like $5, and I'm like, if it means getting to see Brennan Davis play for a couple games, it might be worth it. So that's something to keep an eye on.
They're done with the marquee games for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think what was the last one? It was like the 6th, right?
I think it was Friday. Oh, man, I thought it was after the Cubs Day game.
You're right. I think you are right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Then that was the last one, which is sad because I actually kind of enjoyed those. I think it was cool seeing the kids per se. Play on marquee. I'm sure that was pretty cool for them too, with the larger audience than just MLB TV and whoever ended up at the ballpark that night. But yeah, I mean, I Cody, I love what you brought up too, and this is something I've been seeing a lot of, and a thought that I had a while back, and I really want to get your guys' take on it. I don't know if you guys have seen Brennan Davis in any interviews, but he really does carry himself like that leader of the next core. Like, he has that energy about him. He has almost kind of that Anthony Rizzo energy about him of like, he's confident. He knows he can be the guy. He's just got that, like, not even necessarily like cocky swag, but just this confidence that resonates. And you just look at him and go, yeah, like you just strike me as a dude that's a leader. Like he gives off that aura and that energy. And I'm excited about it because there was an article today, Gordon Whitmire with NBC Sports Chicago wrote about him kind of like saying like, yeah, I'm ready if they look to me as kind of that leader of the next core, quote unquote, he's ready. He's up for the challenge. And I don't think he's scared of it, which I think is obviously huge because obviously, sometimes guys in high pressure situations don't perform well. I think he knows what the kind of the outlook is for him. I mean, he's a top 15 prospect in baseball. It's really the first time the Cubs have had a top 15 prospect in baseball, probably since guys like KB and Russell and, like that kind of line of guys when they came up. And now, like, people are excited about him to come up to the big leagues and do something. And obviously, I'm in agreement with you, Cody. I think May 1st is the earliest we see him next year. I really do think it depends on, how well he does in spring training and then so on and so forth. But I mean,
and it also depends like what the Cubs do in the winter too, right? Like
sure, absolutely.
If they don't get like any major outfield depth or anything, then you can kind of start to count down the days as the season starts. Like, okay, Brennan Davis, countdown watch or some shit like that. Sure. But on the other end, maybe if they were to do that, then you could also argue that they, are trying to tank again. And that's a whole nother discussion I don't want to have. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, there would be more, I guess, reason to believe he'd come up earlier if, the Cubs don't have a lot of outfield depth.
Sure. So. Yeah, and I agree. I think that's obviously is going to be a headline that, amongst our group here as we talk throughout the offseason, that's going to shift and change depending on, the route they go in free agency. But, I mean, I'm excited, and I really do. Like, he almost gives me, I'm going to say it, he gives me, like, Mr. Cub 3.0 energy. And that gets me excited because I think the Cubs truly need that guy. If it's not going to be, Rizzo returning or Bryant returning or whomever, they need that guy to be like, yeah. I'm that dude. Like, I'm cool at being that dude, and I can carry myself as such.
And a lot of guys that are in the system that are projected to at least play for the Cubs one day, I don't know how much you guys see it on social media, but these guys are interacting with him all the time.
And they love him.
He's already kind of beloved by future Cubs. So I think that's just another, addition to his, what makes him valuable. So we should all be excited about it. If the Cubs convention is this year, they're going to push him because they're going to need things to push. So, we've been on the wagon for a while, man. I hope, he plays well in Iowa and things move in a positive direction. We've seen how sometimes guys get derailed. I know Baez is a good example, played really well in the minors, but then got called up, struggled his first year and then went back down. So, that could always happen. And I think that's another thing too, is like we saw a lot of those guys in 15 and obviously 16 just get called up and then there's just incredible. And they didn't start to trend down until after 17, of course, right? But like, I feel like fans have to remember that not every minor league player is like that, right? We've seen it with Ian Happ. I feel like that's a good example, So I guess having that middle ground, just know that, hey, he's young. Well, he's like 21, 22 years old. There's so much potential. Yeah, he's so much potential in this kid. It's almost, there's so much potential that it's almost like you almost want to just let him sit down a full year in minor league baseball again, just so when you do call him up, you're ready to compete and contend now. Some people might argue that. I feel like it's a very small crowd, but in a sense, it could make sense. But the only way that I would, be okay with that is if the Cubs went out and sign Chris Bryant, for example, and you reset for next year and try and do something and that allows your minor league players to kind of grow a little bit more and you don't rush them up. So I don't know. These are all kinds of conversations we'll have next year, I'm sure. But I'm just kind of, these are things that I sit at my desk all the time and just like think about.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I feel that. And Joe, I'm gonna let you go ahead and lead this next one up because a friend of the program, Mr. Buzz on tap here. Actually, an interesting question, and I think it's something that is worth mentioning. We've talked a lot about KB, so this circles into that. And it's who's more likely to come back, Chris Bryant or Javier Baez? I will happily answer last on this one. Joe, I would love to hear from you first.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what are your thoughts on this question? Because I think it's a good question.
I think Cody said it earlier, and I agree with him that Bryant of the three is probably the least likely to come back. I just don't think the Cubs are going to have what he's looking for. Of the two, Bryant definitely makes the most sense because of his versatility. And as far as Baez, I mean, there's a lot of other shortstop free agents. We also already have Nico Horner. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make the most sense, probably not. But would everyone welcome it back with open arms? Absolutely. I think, especially when he was going through that, thumbs down booing fiasco, everyone's kind of thinking like, oh, Baez a lock to come back. He's just looking for some love again. But then he's starting to play well. And you could see Mets fans start to embrace him a little bit. And he's playing last night, if you guys were watching Sunday Night Baseball or caught up on the, Giancarlo Stanton thing where him and Lindor start getting to it. And you see Baez doing the same wave he was given to Amir Garrett right before he got traded. And you're like, well, like I think him and Lindor just work. So I don't know. Baez, regardless, is taking that pay cut, or at least from what he was expecting. What was 180? I think was that number that came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then 200 this year.
He's not getting that, especially even with the Mets. The Mets, because he's going to be playing second base there. They're not paying that much for a second baseman. So
hell no.
So it'll be interesting to watch Baez, but I think of the two, Baez is more likely to come back.
Yeah. As much as I'd rather have Chris Bryant back, I agree as well. It's not even something that I agree that I would be happy about either, unless the dollar amount is where I'm comfortable. I think Baez has had a year where I feel like the best deal he's going to get is if someone overpays him for like 1 year for him to prove that he deserves that $200 million deal. And with the Cubs situation and how much shortstops they have coming up through the system in the next 2 years, 3 years, perhaps, maybe the Cubs would give him a 1 year deal with like a team option or something like that. And Baez might accept that just because it is the Cubs.
Cody,
but I am interested.
Something that popped into my mind. Sorry to interrupt. Before the thought leaves my mind is when you're thinking like Nico Horner kind of feels like that perfect placeholder for whatever Cubs shortstop in the system can come up first, because Nico Horner, he is a shortstop, but at the same time he's not an established shortstop. Javier Baez, it's not like in 2015 and 16 where he's going to move around anymore. He is a shortstop. Mm-hmm. So in that case, I don't think it makes sense. Sorry to interrupt, Cody.
No, you're fine. You make a lot of sense. But Nico Horner, as Buzz says in the comments, can he move to center for Nico? And he's talking about Nico. I mean, I think the Cubs are going to use him as like a utility type guy next year.
And I think that's my point, because like Nico's that placeholder because he can move around and he knows eventually it's going to happen. It's not like he is going to be the Cubs shortstop for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the Cubs feel more comfortable keeping him there until whichever one comes out first.
Yeah, they could play Nico in all three outfield spots. That's how athletic he is. I mean, he's played. I think he played left field. That game that Ian Happ and him collided, and he went out and played in left field after that. Somehow finished that game. Obviously went and on the IL right after that game. But I think that again, with Baez and everything, I think it's more possible, but the money and everything would have to be right for me to get behind it. So
yeah, no, I agree with both of you. Obviously, Chris obviously makes the most sense to come back as a player. Moves around, he's the better bat. He's the better player. Let's just be straight up about it. But I absolutely could see Javi coming back if the price is right for both sides. I ultimately don't think either one of them come back because I agree. I think Nico really is that perfect shortstop. Because, hey, you are going to be our number one shortstop for X number of seasons. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 1.5, maybe it's 2. And then whomever, like you guys said, is first, whether it's, whether it is a Ed Howard, whether it's a, Reginald Preciado, whether it's on some crazy whim, even though I don't even think he's 18 yet, Christian Hernandez. Like, somebody is going to eventually come up and take that helm away from Horner. And then Horner can then kind of grow into that old, Ben Zobrist role from 2015, from 2016 to, 2019 or whatever, where he does bounce around. And, maybe one day he's playing second if Madrigal needs a day off. And one day he's playing center, and one day he's playing left, and one day he's playing short, and one day he's playing, I don't know, he might have the arm strength to play third, and I mean, I feel like really he can play everything if you absolutely needed him to. I think except catch. I mean, really is kind of the player he is and the skill set he has. Obviously, I think he profiles better up the middle, but that's we've talked about that at length. And honestly, I think part of the reason too that they don't want to bring Baez back next year, money obviously and performance and whatnot, but Nico and Nick Madrigal kind of being boys already, I think is going to make for a lot of fun and good chemistry on that double play turn. In the middle infield because, they grew up together in California. I don't know if they ever necessarily played with each other, but I know they played against each other quite a bit. Yeah. And then they played against each other in the Pac-12 because Nico went to Stanford and obviously Madrigal went to Oregon State. So, these guys know each other real well. And that was the big, news over the weekend when it came to Madrigal. And he was at the ballpark for the whole series that you and I saw, Cody, on Saturday.
Actually wasn't even talked about enough, really.
Yeah, it really wasn't.
The Chris Bryant stuff really just highlighted the entire weekend for the Cubs. I completely forgot, to be honest with you, that Nick Madrigal was there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because I think a lot of people did. It really flew under the radar. But, he was talking about how that first text from Nico was really what started getting him excited. And obviously he knows Cody Hoyer well, so he mentioned that Hoyer was a guy he reached out to right away as well. But, I mean, between Horner and Hoyer, ironically, super similar sounding names, but like it's nice hearing Madrigal be excited to play for the Cubs and play at Wrigley and know and I'll be honest with you, I'm excited for him to hit 300. Yeah. I feel, when's the last time we had a consistent dude that hit 300? Like,
right.
Ever? At least not in my remembrance.
And I think he just gets Chicago, with a little bit of experience.
Right. Playing on the south side.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a positive. Not to say it makes or break a damn thing, but
it's not like he has to adjust.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
he's not uprooting his entire life either.
Right.
Yeah, just
Madrigal is another guy that I feel like people just keep forgetting that we even have going into next season. And
I think that's partly due to how well Hoyer has been pitching too, which is a great thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. No doubt. And I didn't watch a lot of Sox games this year, but obviously he'll probably play second base. But I thought he could play a little corner outfield too, if he actually had to. I thought I've watched a few games where he did that. I could be completely wrong.
Let's check it out.
But I'm not
you guys keep talking. I'll take a look.
Either way, we'll have the DH next year too. I don't necessarily want Nick Madrigal playing DH, but if you're getting weird on a Friday afternoon at Wrigley, I mean, fine, whatever. But,
yeah, if you want if you want him to have a day just to kind of, just have to worry about hitting and to chill and
I bring it up because like those Cubs teams that were good from 15, 16, 17, and even 18, let's be real. Like the reason those teams are good is they just had so much like versatility. And I feel like, if they're going to, I feel like, why wouldn't they try and get back to something like that? So, I'm glad to see he's at Wrigley. Rehab's going well. I can't wait to see him actually play, man. I really can't. So,
it's going to be fun.
He has only played second base.
Has he? Okay, maybe I'm thinking of someone else. I don't know, but
no, but I think that's fair. I mean, you certainly want the versatility, right? Because like you said, you think back to when the Cubs were uber competitive in 15, 16, 17, like they have a lot of those guys that can move around. And I think that's why, like, if they could, bringing Chris back makes a ton of sense. I think that's why it's cool seeing Patrick Wisdom play a little bit of left field, because now he can play 3 positions on the field. You have Ian Happ, who can play all 3 outfield spots. Plus, if you absolutely needed him to, he can play second base. And obviously I'm sure he could pick up first base pretty easily too. Like, it's refreshing having those type of dudes that can move around a little bit. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. Like Brennan Davis can play all 3 outfield spots. He's not going to play anything other than outfield. He doesn't need to, but Reginald Preciado came over as exclusively a shortstop, and he's already been taking reps at third base. Same thing with James Triantos. He was a shortstop in high school, but when he was drafted, his name was announced as a third baseman. So it already sounds like they're already kind of keen on some of these guys saying, hey, we want you at one position probably, most of the time, but if you can move around and play 2 or 3 different spots, that's great for us, because then when you eventually get to the big leagues, we have, 9, 10, 11 bats on the bench that effectively can play more than one spot on the field. And then that just keeps guys healthy and keeps guys fresh and it's again, the perks of having a deep team, like you said, Cody. So I think that'll be something, really to keep an eye on. Cause if Madrigal could, on a rare chance, needed a day off and you throw him out and left or something for a day, or if you feel okay enough with him playing short for a day here and there, like it doesn't need to be every day, but just again, having that versatility and allowing guys to get that rest that they need. And honestly, that's kind of why I'm excited for the DH next year. If they don't go out and get that big bat, so let's say a Castellanos or even a KB or even a Rizzo, you know what I mean? Like if they don't bring one of those guys back, to me, the DH role might just be used as that, hey, you want a day to keep your legs fresh? You're going to DH today because we want to keep your bat in the lineup, but we want you to have a day to kind of get that off day almost. I think you see that a lot with some teams. Like the Tampa Bay Rays don't have an exclusive DH. They just throw guys in there as they see it.
I think Nelson Cruz, but
right now, sure,
right,
but like,
yeah, they did
pre the acquisition of Nelson Cruz.
I see what you're saying.
It was Austin Meadows one day. It was Yandy Diaz another day. It was Joey Wendell another day. Like they didn't care. They just threw whoever needed a day off in the DH role to keep their bat in the lineup. And yeah, I agree. Obviously now with Cruz being down there, he's every day in that slot. But that kind of idea is, I think, something too that again just adds another element of why this offseason is going to be so interesting. And obviously, again, you mentioned Cody. We'll talk about it ad nauseum, circa November. But now all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about guys needing a total day off and not playing in your lineup if you have the DH, because now you can just throw them in the DH role for a day and you still get that bat in the lineup. But their legs can stay fresh because they're not having to chase down fly balls or turn double plays or whatever position they play on a daily basis. And I think that's something to really keep an eye on
Think about the first time we saw Schwarber with the Cubs. It was that 3-game series in Cleveland.
Yep.
So,
and that DH role.
Speaking of Schwarber, I haven't taken him off the radar.
I would not be shocked at all, especially if the DH comes to the NL, if he comes back. Because, he's played so well good
this year.
He has. He's been a little quiet lately, but overall, he's been very good.
I can't believe the White Sox fans booed him.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised either.
Was not at all surprised.
Was that the game you were at, or was that
Friday? I was at 2 games. Okay. He got booed at both of them. Friday was probably a little louder than Saturday, but overall, same.
Let me eye roll all the way down the fucking red line. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus fucking Christ.
That's literally what actually.
No one boos Eloy when he comes to fucking Wrigley. No one boos Eloy. I didn't know this. This is like a fresh reaction to this. This is news to me.
Yeah, Schwarber got booed. I was gonna say, Cody, even Zach, who you met, my good buddy that I was with, you met him on Saturday. Even when we got there, he's like, "Why do you care so much to boo him?" You know what I mean? It's not like he said anything bad about the Sox. He never had some vendetta. It just so happens he played at Wrigley Field for a handful of years. He's not even there anymore. Drop the shtick. It's over. It's exhausting.
God.
He was like, that's stupid. He's like, that was the dumbest thing
At
ever.
least with Javi Baez, it's a little bit more understandable because he's a very polarizing player or something like that.
Sure.
I could understand if they did that, but it's not like Kyle Schwarber was like a bad guy or someone who said something in the media about Sox fans or anything like that. I'm literally this is the most annoyed I've been all day. And today's Monday, and I've been annoyed by a lot of shit. This is fucking and I'm still suffering from the Bears loss. This is literally the dumbest thing that I've heard all day. Someone send this to every Sox fan I know. That's fucking stupid. Your team's fucking good. Fucking get over it. Fucking stop letting the Cubs live in your heads utilities free for one fucking day. Stop letting us live in your heads utilities free. We have gotten over it, dude. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It annoys. I have repeated on here that I have never really had disdain for the White Sox. It's more just they go out of their ways, their fans go out of their ways to try to just put us down. When the Cubs are good in 17 and 18, they still went out of their way to do that whenever it's your team is garbage. You guys are rebuilding. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah. No, and that's
and
fair.
Now here we are, and your team's actually good, and a guy that never said anything bad about you or anything. I'm so annoyed, man.
And he was a guy that everybody was hoping for. That so many White Sox people were saying they would love to see him on the Sox. So it's
in the off season, right?
Yeah, and then you still boo him. It was stupid. I agree.
Here's my spiel, but that's
it's okay. But here's the fun part, Cody. I would be fine then if they want to boo him next year if he's back with the Cubs and when they play on the South Side. Then sure,
yeah, I mean,
okay, go ahead and boo him then.
But it's he's on the Red Sox. Are you booing every guy on the Red Sox? It's not like the Sox and the Red Sox have any kind of rivalry. I know they played in the playoffs a couple times, 12 years ago. But I'm trying to understand, folks. I'm trying to understand. Yeah. I don't get it. I just think it's it's another level of petty that even I can't get to. And I'm a petty person. I come on this podcast when we fucking suck, and I point out all the people who fucking said that this team is worse than 2012. And it's who fucking cares? We fucking suck. So did that team.
Well, and Scott from Iowa dropping the comment of the day early in the show. So I apologize to him that we didn't get to this one. But you said it, right? That 2012. The Cubs are in a better position to win something important compared to the Bears.
He's not wrong.
He's really not. He's really not.
God. And we have a quarterback now, and I still feel like that.
Yeah, I'm saying. And for everybody that is listening to our show, if you are a big Bears fan, please go listen to the boys over at Bears on Tap. They had a great show last night. I actually can't wait to listen to it. I've caught a little bit of it so far. They do a great job. Duke, beat on, as well as Lucas. They crush. So make sure you're checking in on them too. Because these next 2 weeks, you'll probably hear angry Bears fans out of the three of us as well. As Cubs guys, especially on a Monday show like today, where if we're playing Monday morning quarterback, it's going to be a lot of anger and issues. But yeah, go just one quick little thing I have, and then I kind of want to open up to you guys if you have anything else you guys want to wrap up. Obviously, we can look a little bit into tomorrow's game. Cubs start a series on the road in Philadelphia with the Phillies on through Thursday, and then this weekend they play in Milwaukee for the last time this season. Thank God I don't see that ugly Brewers logo ever again this year because I absolutely hate them. But Cody Hoyer, even with yesterday giving up a run, still has a 1.23 ERA in 18 games. So I wanted to just make note of that because he has been absolutely splendid.
I'm not looking forward to the Brewers series because
I am not either.
1 or 2 games against Milwaukee all season.
It's miserable.
It's 1 or 2 games.
And watch us somehow magically get Peralta, Woodruff, and Burns for all 3 of them too.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a nightmare.
One of the games that they won was that Wilson Contreras homer in the late 8th or 9th inning in April. That's the last Cubs win I can think of against Milwaukee. That was literally the first week of the year, guys.
I know, it's been a long time. That was April. That feels like a lifetime ago, and that was April.
That was a great game.
April, and it feels like a lifetime.
It's one of the highlights from the year, right?
It has to be.
When we get to the very end, we have to find a way to talk about the best games of the year,
the season moments of this year. That's actually a really good topic for the last episode.
I think I was at the Cubs Padres. It was the 3rd game of the series. Was it Labor Day? Yeah. And
Memorial Day?
Was that Memorial Day? Yeah.
And then, that series was fun in general.
Wisdom hit 2 homers and Javi hit 2 homers. Oh.
Yes, I remember that game.
Incredible.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that one was sick. I was very jealous. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got to go to a pretty good game. I was at the 16-4 ass whooping of the New York Mets back in late April. That one was fun. It was cold as shit though, so that part of it wasn't great. But I mean, Javi hit a grand slam in that game. Pete Alonso still hit the farthest ball I've ever seen in person that game, because that thing it went out to dead left. We were in left center, so you just watched this thing carry. I was like, that thing's never going to land. It's going to land on the freaking rooftops across the street. I mean, it was an absolute nuke off his bat. But I mean, it was nice watching the Cubs. And the Cubs had, I think they were being no hit going into like the third inning too.
That sounds about right.
That game. And like all of a sudden, Peterson walked the bases loaded, and then like it just all hell broke loose, and it was hysterical. And Lindor had his home run in the first inning of that game too. The Mets actually had a lead in a 16-4 ass whooping. It was quite something. And
I would say my favorite game by far, and I've gone to a lot of games this year, but my favorite game for sure was the first 100% capacity.
That
game.
Cardinals, oh yeah.
The beginning of the Cardinals series, the Cubs were down 5-1 at one point. Finally saw Rizzo hit a homer like in person.
Wasn't that the freaking like 12 pitch at bat too?
14 pitch at bat. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I would have lost my shit if I was at that game.
I'm pretty sure Jock Peterson hit one out too.
Yep, I think you're right.
It was just a great day.
Talk about feeling like forever ago. He has been.
I'm trying to remember the starter for the Cubs that day. Former first rounder for the Twins that just busted out.
Cole Stewart.
Cole Stewart. There you go.
Stewart.
Yeah, Cole Stewart. He started for the Cubs that day. Lasted a whole like 2 innings.
Yep, I remember that.
But the Cardinals shit their pants that day. It was a great fucking day, guys.
Yeah, right, but I got a jet. Sorry to leave mid round here, but enjoy the rest of the show, boys. I'll talk to you guys
man.
Later.
Sounds good, Joe. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yep. See you.
Well, Cody, I'll tell you what, man. I think you and I can wrap this thing up too. I know you're talking about going to the gym. Hey, it's an off day for us too, ladies and gentlemen. The fact we're working on an off day says something about us here at Cubs on Tap.
Something how much we care, man. And there's a lot to look forward to. Like we said, we were sitting at the game on Saturday, and the Cubs were getting their butt whooped like 11-3 or something before you and your buddy left, and we still found a way to sit there and have a good time and talk about the future.
Hell yeah, we had a great time.
As depressing as that sounds, I mean, I will say this, and I'm actually disappointed in myself for doing this, but a large part of it had to do with my buddy I was with as well. It was the first game on Saturday, the first game I have ever gone to in any sport where I left before it ended. It was the first game I ever left. Like, and I've sat through some long ones, guys. I've sat through some blowouts. But we saw Chris Bryant's last at bat on Saturday, and then I was so mad that the Cubs walked him in his last at bat on Saturday. I was like, fine, fuck this. I'm out of here anyway. I was at the point where I was like, all right, Chris,
give it to me.
I need the homer, man.
Yeah,
I need the homer. We're getting murdered right now. Hit one out. All the naysayers used to say you only hit homers when it didn't matter. This is your time.
Yeah, here's your moment. Honestly, he probably would have gotten just as big of applause if he was still a Cub too, because nobody gave a shit at that point. They would have just like, yeah, go, Chris. We love you, buddy. We hope you're doing good. It's like sending off like your son or daughter to college and watching them do great. You're just like, we're so proud of you. Good job. Like, we don't care that it directly affects the Cubs losing. Like, that's just how the weekend was. And then, of course, like, it was also the Subway Series in New York. So, like, Rizzo and Baez and all their content of them hugging and talking and shit. And just, it was an emotional weekend for Cubs fans. And then just you added the salt in the wound of the Bears just getting mollywopped on Sunday Night Football. And
the only thing good that happened for me for sports this weekend was that I fucking killed betting college football, brother.
Yes,
that is literally the only good thing about me and sports this weekend.
Yeah, you crushed it.
I lost all the money betting on the NFL, including the fucking Chicago Bears. So,
if it makes you feel better, I was 2-0 entering that Sunday night game. I covered with the Browns and we covered with the Steelers. I was feeling good, and then the Bears just fucking broke my heart. I just had them to cover. I didn't pick them outright or anything, but
I told myself all day Sunday, I was like, I'm not going to bet the Bears to cover. I'm not going to do it because I know I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not. And then you know what? I fucking talked myself into doing it.
Did it anyway.
Did it anyway.
I feel you. I was the same way because I'm like, that spread just feels too big, even though I know they could.
Well, it was at 7.5, and then they moved it to 8.5, and I was like,
yeah, I got it at 8.5. Yeah. Because I was like, I can see them losing by a touchdown, but like,
if it would have moved to 6.5, I would have bet the Rams.
Oh yeah, 100%. I definitely would have as well. Minus 6.5 would have been too good to pass up for LA, especially with Stafford now. But if you want to hear more talk about that game, again, go over listen to Bears on
Yeah,
Tap.
we're just
It's
kind
posted.
of free balling now.
Yeah, we'll send you over there and let those guys talk a little more about it.
They had a
But,
great post game show today. Go check it out.
They did.
Bears on Tap.
They did. I'm like I said, I caught some of it already. I need to go finish listening to it. I'm excited to go ahead and head in and finish it up. Cody, I'll just let people know. I don't even think we need to necessarily pick a Fly the W player or anything, but I just want to let everybody know Cubs are back in action tomorrow. 6:05 start local time because they are on the East Coast at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Adrian Sampson will take the mound for the Cubbies. Kyle Gibson, a guy that the Cubs were rumored to be buyers for until their epic collapse at the deadline, actually takes the mound for the Phillies tomorrow. He's 10-6 on the year, 3.38 ERA. Sampson, 2.20 ERA, though, still pretty impressive. So kind of excited to see what he can do tomorrow for the Cubbies. So, Cody, any final thoughts today, man, on this off day before we go ahead and wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I want to mention, I don't know if you guys talked about in the last pod, was it you and Joe? Yeah, you.
It's been a hot minute, yeah.
I don't know if we've talked about it, but I am very sad about Michael Hermosillo having to probably be out the rest of the season.
We did not talk about it, so yeah.
So, and also shout out to him for following me on Twitter. But
shit's cool.
I'm sad mainly because he had never really been given a full shot, but also they didn't put him in the lineup. I could go on and on about it, but whatever. I genuinely hope that the Cubs consider him next year. I do think there's something there. He mashes left-handed pitching, and if at very least he is your solid fourth outfielder, I feel like next year. And he just looked good in Cubs and Cubby blue, right?
He does.
With the dreads and everything, he looked like a really fun guy. So I'm hoping, I am hoping, Michael, if you're listening or watching, whatever, I'm a big fan. So, yeah, that's like, I guess, one other note. But as far as the game, Adrian Sampson, I believe I was at that game. I was at that game last Wednesday. The last start he had, gave up 2 bombs, including one to Nick Castellanos, where he hit it just literally dead center. Basically, it felt like almost into the bleachers of dead center, but it didn't get that quite far. But it was dead center. Mm-hmm. Gave up 2 early homers, but really settled down after that. So I was really impressed by that. I think he was able to go 5 innings against the Reds team that, again, is in a playoff chase and everything. Mm-hmm. So, you take that all into consideration. I think on the post-game show, you and Joe talked about how he could be, a solid, like, if a guy in the rotation goes down on the IL or something, he could be a solid, 1 or 2 start guy or something next year. Or, maybe long relief is a thing. Maybe he takes the Alec Mills role. I don't know.
Sure.
But so far he's been pretty solid for the Cubs in his limited time. He's up to somewhere between 10 and 15 or 10 and 20 innings now. So a small sample size, but I do, if you consistently show that you're good like he has, then, I can't get mad about it. So I'm hoping that, you keep it rolling tomorrow against a team in a playoff chase. They're like 3 games back in the second wild card spot right now. Those games are going to matter for the Phillies. The Phillies, I feel like Philadelphia media, Philadelphia fans, like the team itself probably will look at this series as a failure if they do not sweep, considering the time of the year that it is. Mm-hmm. I will just say I would believe that that's, you know how these Philadelphia fans are. They're some of the worst fans in all of sports. Yeah, they're probably thinking that they need to sweep. So, yeah, I would, there's a lot of pressure on them to perform. Just continue to play spoiler. Still above 500 in the month of September, despite the sweep of the Giants. So, get off the shine and, let's turn it around and finish the season strong, man. I'm still waiting for Patty Wise to tie that home run record. He's kind of been struggling. I don't know if it's because of that home run record that he's struggling. He's still playing a mean third base, though. So,
third base.
Is what it is. When we've seen him struggle so far this year and at certain times, and he's been able to figure it out. So hopefully the off day is good for him today. So tomorrow he unleashes. So I've already talked myself into giving him my Fly W player pick. There you go.
I love
hit the homer tomorrow. He's going to hit it tomorrow, man.
I love it. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I mean, going back to just kind of backing up everything you had to say, wanted to reinforce all your points here, because Adrian Sampson, 6 games, 16 in the third innings for him so far this year, 13 strikeouts and 2.20 ERA, 116 WHIP. I mean, he's been very good. I mean, he's just solid. And yeah, like you said, Joe and I talked about him probably being like really kind of that like 6th, 7th type starter guy where like, if he's in the pen, he can give you a couple innings. If not, he's a really solid guy to have at AAA Iowa that can be easily called up, can fill in for 1 or 2 or 3 starts if you need him to, and then can just be sent back down and all things considered. But yeah, and then going back to what you said too with the Phillies and in the standings, I mean, only 2.5 out of the wild card, and they're 4.5 out in their division. So division race, probably not going to happen. The Braves absolutely caught fire after the trade deadline and shot their way all the way up the standings. I think they were in 3rd at one point. And they just got so hot and took control of that NL East. Like I think a lot of people expected them to, let's be honest. But the Phillies playing well enough to hang around and make some noise, and 2.5 games in the wild card is absolutely something they can pull off. If like you said, I really do think they believe they need to sweep the Cubs this week, because if the Cubs come out and play spoiler and take 2 of 3, I mean the Phillies only have 10 games left to catch, and if the other teams keep winning these next 3 days, then they're even further in a hole, to make the playoffs. And I agree. I think there's a lot of pressure on them in this series. So I'm gonna go ahead tomorrow, and I don't know. I'm feeling it. I mean, he was the player of the week for Marquee. He did bat .333. He has a 1250 OPS last week, 4 home runs and a triple. We saw that triple on Saturday. I'm gonna go Ian Happ as my fly the W player. I think he keeps it going, stays hot. He's on a mission to prove some people wrong, and it's also on the mission to prove he deserves to be in this lineup again next year, no matter what they do in free agency. So I'm going to take Ian. I think he keeps rolling, stays hot. Maybe goes yard, maybe has a couple hits too. And I mean, he's had like 5 or 6 3-hit games since like the middle of August. So I could absolutely see him having a 2 or 3-hit game tomorrow against the Phillies. And again, maybe the Cubs continue to play spoiler and knock some of these borderline playoff teams out of the race, and at least get the satisfaction of knowing that they get to go home early with the Cubbies at the end of the day on October 3rd, I believe, was the official last day of the season. The Cubs will be in St. Louis for that series that weekend. So
the Cubs have seven games left with the Cardinals, I believe, and they're as of today they are 1 game out of the second wild card spot somehow, some way. It's because the Padres and the Reds just keep sucking as well. It's almost like karma has come back to haunt me a little bit, because I've just been shitting. Like any chance I get, I have just been shitting on that franchise. Mm-hmm. But it is so Cardinals that here we are mid-September and they're only 1 game out. And I don't understand how, because they fucking stink. It's almost, but I'm also like thinking, I kind of want them to get in, because they would definitely get murdered by the Dodgers.
Oh, they would get crushed
in that first round series. So, or like wild card game, whatever. So I don't know, but I would love nothing more to just really embrace playing spoiler and just really just ruin all of Cardinals fans' like hopes and dreams. I don't even know if they have any hopes and dreams for this team, but like they stink. They don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Baseball does not. They shouldn't want the Cardinals to get in the postseason. They shouldn't. They should be cheering for the Padres to figure their shit out. That way you get that team against the Dodgers in the wild card game, a rivalry, all that stuff. They should be cheering for the Padres. They should be. Fucking what's I can't think of the word, but just fucking cheat. Just force it. I don't care. Like
fix the games and do what you got to do.
Bring in fucking Joe West and tell him to purposely suck against one team, and whoever that team is that's playing the Padres, just tell him to really just be him, but only for the other team.
Just a little one-sided bias. Yeah, I mean, if you're baseball, that's absolutely what you want in that NL wildcard game. You want the Dodgers and Padres because you got 2 star-studded lineups, and that game's going to crush in the ratings. And then obviously whoever wins is going to go play the Giants, which is going to do well in the ratings. So, and then you got the effectively you'll have the Brewers and the Braves probably playing them in that other series in the NLDS. So, I agree with you. They definitely should be rooting for the Padres. Fernando Tatis, you want that star power in the playoffs. You really don't want freaking Adam Wainwright and Dylan Carlson being the headline in the playoffs against the Dodgers in comparison to guys like Tatis and that star-studded lineup, and Manny Machado, who's catching flyouts in right field now, apparently, because they shift so heavy. But that's a whole nother story. I don't know if you saw that, but I would recommend recommend you to go look that up. Just Machado flyout, and you'll find it. And literally, he like catches this ball maybe 25 feet away from the wall in right field. It's the dumbest thing I've seen all day.
That is,
but
they need to fix this shifting shit, man.
They surely do. They really do. And that was something that, ironically, Zach and I talked about too. It's just fixing the shift because it's terrible. But Cody, before we get out of here, quickly want to remind everybody: Cubs on Tap, official Cubs podcast, the On Tap Sports Network. Check us out, www.ontapsportsnet.com, at On Tap Sports on social media. I am at Loose on Tap. Cody's at Cody on Tap on Twitter. You can follow all of our other ones at Joe, who was with us tonight, at Joe on Tap, at Juice on Tap, at Morty the Wall, at The Riot 326, and so many more that contribute to Cubs here. You can also follow the Pod Specific account at Cubbies on Tap, CUBBIES. That's Twitter and Instagram. And then, like we said, Bears on Tap guys are crushing it. Bulls on Tap, they're going to have a fun year. Make sure you're following along with them. And Four Feathers Pod, which I contribute to here and now and then. And hockey will be fun this year. The Blackhawks should be a good time to watch and at least follow. So make sure you're following all the fall sports. And yes, Cubs fans, we all have friends that are Sox fans. Sox on Tap. They do a great job covering the Southsiders. And as you mentioned earlier, they have a good team. They're going to the playoffs. So they'll be talking about baseball in October as we begin to shift gears into off-season mode as the Cubs side. But once again, www.ontapsportsnet.com, at OnTap Sports, and on social media, the OnTap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Cody, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you to Joe, who joined us earlier and had to drop off. What do you say, man? We get out of here on this off day the only way we know how?
Go Cubs, fuck St. Louis, and go Patty Wise. I need that homer tomorrow.
I love it. Let's go Cubbies, baby.